Margaret Wilson sat quietly on the passenger side of her daughter's car, her weathered hands gently folded over the small leather purse resting in her lap. At 83, her once dark hair had softened to a gentle silver, and fine lines traced the long journey of her years across her face. The familiar streets of her neighborhood slipped past the window, each one carrying memories from the 47 years she had spent in the same modest two-bedroom home. She glanced over at Lisa, her adopted daughter, who kept her gaze steady on the road ahead. Margaret had taken Lisa into her home when the girl was just 7, a quiet child with solemn eyes who had already witnessed more sorrow than any child should. Now, at 42, Lisa had grown into a calm, composed woman, her quiet strength reminding Margaret of the old oak tree in their backyard, the one that had withstood countless storms and still stood tall and proud. "Are you comfortable, Mom? Want me to adjust the heat?" Lisa asked, briefly meeting her mother's eyes. "I'm fine, dear," Margaret replied softly, though comfort was far from what she felt. In the trunk, the small suitcase held what she had carefully chosen as essential from a lifetime of belongings: photo albums, her wedding ring, a few treasured books, and enough clothes for a week were tucked inside. The rest of her possessions had been thoughtfully sorted over the past month, some donated, some given to kind neighbors, and the most precious pieces passed on to family members. Margaret had known this day would come sooner or later. Her health had been on a slow but steady decline ever since her fall last winter. The doctor's words echoed in her mind, clear as ever: "Margaret, you really shouldn't be living alone anymore." So when Lisa suggested they take a drive today, Margaret understood without needing to ask. The brochures for Sunny Pines Retirement Community had been resting on her coffee table. For weeks now, Lisa had been kind, patient, but also gently persistent about the need to take the next step. For a while, they drove in silence, leaving behind the streets Margaret had known so well. She gazed out at the changing scenery as neighborhood lanes gave way to the main road that led out of town. Her throat tightened when they passed the library, where she'd spent 20 years volunteering. Then came the park, the one where she'd pushed Lisa on the swings when she was small. "Do you remember how you used to beg me to push you higher on those swings?" Margaret asked, her voice quivering just a little with emotion. Lisa smiled, the corners of her eyes crinkling softly. "And you always said, not to high, but then you'd give me one big push that made me squeal." The memory lingered between them, sweet and heavy with nostalgia. As they continued down the road, Margaret noticed they had passed the turn that would have led them toward Sunny Pines. A flicker of confusion crossed her face. "Did you miss the turn, dear?" she asked gently. "We're not going to Sunny Pines today, Mom," Lisa replied, a curious smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. Margaret's heart quickened, uncertainty rising within her. "But I thought, just a little farther," Lisa said, reaching over to pat Margaret's hand softly. "We're almost there." About 10 minutes later, they turned onto a tree-lined street in a neighborhood Margaret didn't recognize. The houses were older, much like her own, with well-tended gardens and tall, mature trees. Lisa eased the car into the driveway of a charming blue cottage with white trim. A wide front porch adorned with blooming planters welcomed them. "Here we are," Lisa announced as she turned off the engine. Margaret gazed at the house, confusion clouding her eyes. "Where are we?" "Home," Lisa said simply. She stepped out, came around, and helped Margaret, who moved carefully with the aid of her cane. Together they walked up the stone pathway. The front door opened, and Lisa's husband, David, appeared, his face bright with a warm smile. "Welcome home, Margaret," he called. Margaret froze in place, bewildered. "I don't understand." Lisa gently guided her toward the porch. "Mom, David and I bought this house 3 months ago. We've been renovating it ever since." She motioned toward the open door. "Would you like to see inside?" Still puzzled, Margaret allowed herself to be led into the house. Inside, she found a bright, airy living room. The space was furnished with care, a blend of new pieces and, to Margaret's surprise, many of her own treasured belongings. There by the large window sat her favorite reading chair. Her handmade quilts were draped over the sofa, and along the mantel of a brick fireplace stood her cherished collection of family photographs. "This doesn't make sense," Margaret whispered, her voice unsteady with emotion. Lisa gently led her further in, through a spacious kitchen with lowered counters and easy-to-reach cabinets, past a dining room where Margaret's beloved oak table took pride of place. Finally, they stopped at a door at the back of the house. "This is your suite," Lisa explained, opening the door to reveal a beautiful bedroom with an adjoining bathroom. The room was painted in Margaret's favorite soft shade of pale blue. Her own bed stood there, made up with fresh linens, and against one wall was the handcrafted dresser that had once belonged to her grandmother. The bathroom had been thoughtfully designed, grab bars, a walk-in shower with a seat, and wide doorways. All the features the doctor had recommended. Margaret began, tears filling her eyes. Lisa took her mother's trembling hands gently in hers. "Mom, we never intended to take you to a nursing home. David and I have been working on this house for months. There's plenty of space for all of us, and everything is set up so you can move around safely and keep your independence." Just then, David appeared in the doorway, joined by their 12-year-old twins Emma and Jacob, who had been waiting eagerly to surprise their grandmother. "We want you here with us, Grandma," Emma said, stepping forward to give Margaret a gentle hug. "And who else is going to teach me how to make those amazing cookies?" Jacob added with a wide grin. Margaret sank slowly onto the edge of the bed, overwhelmed. "But your lives, your routines, I'll just be in the way," she said softly. Lisa knelt down in front of her mother, her eyes full of sincerity. "Mom, do you remember what you told me the day you officially adopted me? You said, 'Family isn't about convenience, it's about belonging together.' You chose me when you didn't have to. Now, we're choosing this together." Margaret glanced around the room, at the family photos on the nightstand, the bookshelf filled with her favorite novels, the rocking chair by the window that overlooked a small garden. "You did all this for me," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "With you," Lisa gently corrected. "This isn't the end of your independence, Mom. It's just a new chapter, one where we can help each other. The twins need their grandmother's wisdom. David could really use your famous gardening advice for the backyard. And I," her voice wavered, filled with feeling, "I still need my mom." Tears streamed freely down Margaret's cheeks as understanding washed over her. This wasn't an ending. It was something new, a continuation, a different shape for their family. Yes, but family all the same. That evening, they gathered around Margaret's old table, now given new life in its new home, and shared dinner together. As dusk settled beyond the windows, Margaret listened to the familiar music of family, the clink of dishes, the children's laughter, the soft, loving banter between David and Lisa. And she realized home had never really been about the walls that surrounded her, but about the people who chose to surround her with love later. As Lisa helped her unpack the small suitcase that had felt so final that morning, Margaret reached out and touched her daughter's cheek. "You know," she said quietly, "I was so afraid of being a burden that I never thought I might still be a blessing." Lisa smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. "You've always been the blessing, Mom. Always." That night, in her new room, in her new home, Margaret drifted off to sleep with a heart finally at peace. The journey she had feared so deeply had not led to an ending, but to a homecoming she had never imagined. A home surrounded by the family she had built through love, who had now built a place for her in return.